Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Arthritis Foundation March webinar series, Joyful Movement, Easy on the Joints, Big on Fun. We're so happy that you've joined us tonight. You could have been anywhere else tonight, but you are here and we are so glad about it. So I would first like to start with introducing myself. I am Ashley Nicole. I am the founder and autoimmune health coach of RA Warrior Fitness. The RA stands for rheumatoid arthritis, as I have lived with rheumatoid arthritis for 20 years now. And so 4 years ago, actually this past Monday, March 25th, 4 years ago, I launched RA Warrior Fitness at the beginning of the pandemic. And it has been such a blessing to be able to use my rheumatoid arthritis to help other women to improve their quality of life through faith, food, and fitness. That is the mission of RA Warrior Fitness, is to reduce joint discomfort and increase energy, all through faith, food, and fitness. And so I decided to become who I needed after I was diagnosed, because there was no one really positively showing how you could live and thrive with this condition. And so after having the desire to want to become a personal certified trainer, I decided that I wanted to work with women just like me. And so in 4 years, I've helped over 300 women to transform and to become a better version of themselves. And trust me, I have been on both ends of the spectrum of this condition, where I've had debilitating joint pain, extreme fatigue, discomfort, to becoming a pro bodybuilding athlete. I earned my pro card as a natural bodybuilder 2 years ago. And so it is certainly possible to accomplish the dreams and the desires of your heart if you believe in yourself. And so super excited to be your moderator tonight. And so next slide, I would like to introduce our first expert, which is Dr. Samuel Chukwuma. I hope I pronounced that correctly. I'm just going to call him Dr. Sam. But Dr. Sam is an Atlanta-based physical therapist, and his practice focus is sports medicine and ergonomic principles. And so our next expert, we've got two tonight, okay? So our next expert is Dr. Brien Lee, who is also a physical therapist based out of Atlanta with STEAM Physical Therapy. And his practice focus is pickleball performance and recovery. So you all are in for an absolute treat tonight. So let's go over a few housekeeping items before we get to our experts. Let's go over some housekeeping items here. So all attendees have been muted to ensure that we can hear our speakers clearly. Also, use the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. There will be a discussion following the presentations. After the webinar, you will receive a post-event survey, and we would really appreciate it if you share your thoughts, as your voices do matter as they help us to plan our future events. Always check out our resources on YouTube, as well as our foundation's webinar page. All right, so let's get into what we are going to be in store for tonight. So the goal of this presentation is to help you find your joy in movement. Yes, I said joy in movement. We hope to achieve that by identifying low impact exercises and movement for bodies with arthritis, creating a joyful movement routine, adaptations for physical enjoyment, social and emotional benefits of exercise, and also resources to continue your movement journey. So if you're ready for a fun and lively session, let's get rocking and rolling with Dr. Sam. I'm turning it over to you, Dr. Sam.
Thank you so much, Ashley. Hello, everybody. I'm Dr. Sam. I'm a physical therapist here in Atlanta. I am incredibly happy to be here with you all today, and I'm hoping that I can give you some tidbits and some information to help you all on your joyful journey. So I want to start with some common questions. First of all, what causes arthritis? Currently, research doesn't have a lot of information regarding specifics. Things such as genetics, age, weight, the presence of autoimmune disorder, all of those things can be contributing factors to having arthritis. And here we have a diagram highlighting some common areas that are affected by arthritis. You may have experienced some pain or stiffness in your neck, your low back, your hips, fingers, knees, even your toes and ankles. And along with these areas that are affected, you can have common symptoms such as pain and joint stiffness, redness and swelling, as well as inflammation and muscle weakness. Those are just some common side effects that may occur with arthritis. And unfortunately, with the presence of some of those symptoms, our first go-to is to kind of avoid movement. And unfortunately, that makes the situation worse. With lack of inactivity or lack of movement, we are susceptible to things such as musculoskeletal issues. So the presence of weakness, um, joint stiffness, poor support for the joints that may be affected, as well as cardiovascular problems. It's important to get your heart going. And when we're not active, we experience some degrading of our cardiovascular system. Um, Susceptibility to metabolic issues like diabetes or weight gain. And then we are also more susceptible to immune system and certain cancers that may be present. We have some common questions that I experience and I get from some of my patients. Number one, can arthritis make my condition worse? There's a lot of good research out there showing that utilizing strength training within a guided program can actually help reduce some of those symptoms that we talked about, weakness, stiffness, pain, inflammation, things like that. I always recommend anybody that is looking to maybe take hold of the presence of arthritis in their life to reference or tap a professional, maybe someone like Ashley or myself or even Brien to help guide what that progress and program looks like. What type of exercise is best for arthritis? So a lot of times when someone is first trying to start that joyful journey of fitness, they may have discomfort. They may not know where to start. Oftentimes, I tell people to start with low impact. That can be anything from yoga, stretching, anything that's just going to get your body moving as far as your joints. Anything that is going to unweight the joint. For example, water aerobics, a lot of people enjoy that, or even like low impact bike riding, stationary bike riding, things like that, that do not require like heavy impact to the joint. Those are a good place to start, and you can tap your healthcare provider to help guide that process. How often should I exercise? Research shows that anywhere from 100 to 150 minutes of moderate to intense exercise or 75 minutes of very vigorous exercise per week is a great starting point. This allows you to track and see what your body does, how your body responds to the introduction of a new exercise program, and be able to tweak and modify how intense or regress or dial back your exercise program if needed. And then, of course, with any introduction of exercise program, always is pivotal to talk to your doctor, talk to your healthcare provider, and make sure that you're safe and appropriate to start an exercise program as well. What if I have joint pain during exercise? A lot of times as well, I get this question. If you experience joint pain during exercise, I always say stop and rest. If the pain continues, then we're done with the exercise. If it dissipates, then we look at, can we modify what we're doing? Can we maybe take a longer break? Can we do less reps? Can we change the exercise in a way that we can bring that pain level down? And it's always important to talk with your provider or your trainer. What is the level of pain that is tolerable, right? And then go from there. Try to stay within that range. If it goes above, then we need to have a conversation about that specific exercise. Some discomfort is normal with exercise, but we need to differentiate the difference between pain and discomfort. And usually, talking with your provider or your trainer, you'll be able to determine that and go from there. Can I still exercise if I have limited mobility? Yes, 100%. I encourage it. I say never stop moving. Um, there's many exercises that we can use. There's many tactics, strategies that we can use as well. If we are bedridden, if we are in a wheelchair, if we can only tolerate standing for a certain amount of time, we can do seated exercises as well. Included in that, gentle stretching, all of these things can be modified to your situation. And finding a good provider and a good fitness coach as well is key for that, to be able to modify for your situation. All right, finding your joyful movement. I believe exercise is essential. I think it's key. Number one, to find something that you like doing. That's usually pivotal as far as maintaining or sticking to something. A lot of times we'll start at the beginning of the year, we'll have a New Year's resolution to go to the gym. 2 weeks in, we're not going to the gym anymore. A lot of times it's because we haven't found something that we find enjoyable, or a routine that we find challenging but doable. So I think it's key to test, find out things that you enjoy or you can try, and see what fits your desires there. Number one tactic as far as sticking to a program, tracking your progress, being able to see your improvements, being able to see how can I challenge myself here. I think that tracking your progress either on paper, digitally, even with your provider or your fitness trainer, all of those tactics are ways that you can celebrate and even encourage yourself to continue and progress in your exercise program. Thinking outside the gym as far as activities. So later on, we're going to hear about pickleball. I think that's a great activity. Hiking, things like swimming, things like even dancing, things like that are just outside of the gym, but still are getting your body moving. Making it social, getting a gym buddy, getting a friend, even joining a group. I know a lot of gyms offer group fitness. There are a lot of Facebook groups that you can find. You can also talk to your provider as far as connecting you with possible groups that can help you get started with your fitness journey or whatever goals you have as far as movement. And then, of course, lastly, finding variety. So maybe finding something you like, and then also continuously looking for other things to get yourself moving.
Dr. Sam, can I chime in for a
Of
second?
course, yeah.
Okay. I love everything that you're saying, and I agree 100%. But I definitely want to speak to making it social and finding something that you enjoy, because that's what was hard for me when was it was like 6 years before I was officially diagnosed. So when I finally got diagnosed after that 6th year is when I started getting serious about my health, because I had also put on like 60 pounds in the process. And so I was like, okay, getting some of this weight off of my joints will definitely help. And I didn't know where to start. I was intimidated by the gym. So I started with jazzercise. Okay. Some of y'all might, if y'all old school, you're probably familiar with jazzercise, because it was just something fun. I did like to dance, and it was low impact and it was fun. And that kept me going. And then I discovered Zumba. So like the dance classes were so much fun, and just being in that environment. And another thing I will say is, if you go to like a group class at a gym or somewhere, definitely advocate for yourself and communicate with the trainer that you do have arthritis, you may have some physical limitations. Ask them for modifications. I know that I used to be intimidated to speak up, but I learned that I had to. And so that also inspired me, to become a trainer myself, because I'm like, I know what it's like to, want to move, but have certain physical limitations. So definitely step outside the box and find something that you enjoy and always advocate for yourself.
But actually dancing is one of my favorites. I often encourage my patients to do the same. I have some music, but we're having some technical difficulties right now. But I'm gonna show you some moves.
I had to jump in there with you. You did get me excited.
I
So yes,
appreciate
I
you.
couldn't sit. I couldn't sit still, Dr. Sam. Love it.
So so now I'm gonna show you guys a few exercises that you can start and add to your beginner's home exercise program. So this is a stretch that I like to give people for their neck. It's a pretty gentle stretch. What you're gonna do is you're gonna grab the side of your head and gently guide your ear down to your shoulder. Okay. You should feel a nice stretch in the side of your neck, probably the back of your neck as well. Gentle, so you should feel maximally moderate discomfort. It shouldn't be painful. If it's painful, dial it back a little bit. So let up a little bit. So usually I like to have people hold about 10 seconds. If you want to, you can also add in a nice shrug. So when you shrug, you might feel a little pull in here. And then when you relax, bigger pull. So you can do about 10 of these just to see how you feel. Switch to the other side as well. There we go. And generally speaking, 10 on each side. You can do about 3 per set exercise session. And from there, use that as a gauge. If the next couple days you're like really sore, we'll dial it back. You'll do less reps, modify the amount that you're doing. Okay. And the next exercise, you can get your hands on a TheraBand, or a band can go to pretty much almost any store. And I'm starting with a light to medium resistance band. I would probably start there, and then if it's pretty easy, then you'll increase the resistance. So what you'll do is you'll hold the band about shoulder width apart, so about just outside of the edges of your shoulders. And you want to pull straight. Right? When you do that, you may feel some squeezing between your shoulder blades there. If you don't have the strength to pull all the way, bring your hands out a little further so it's a little bit easier, and just pull it straight till it touches your chest. Right? You should feel this kind of in your shoulders and in between your shoulder blades. Sometimes you'll feel it down your arms, especially if you haven't done something like this in a while, and that's okay. So I like to do 10 to start. And I'll take a rest, and I'll usually do about 3 sets of 10 there as well. See how we feel, and then we can progress in the next coming days. Oh. This is one I like to do for our back. So if you're comfortable, I want you to clasp your fingers together, bring them behind your head. If we can't comfortably get our hands up here, you can cross your arms like this. So what we're gonna do here, hands behind our head or here, we're gonna aim to bring our elbow down toward the floor or toward our pocket. Okay. Might get some pops and cracks in there, and that's okay. If it's painful, again, always dial it back. If it's uncomfortable, we might just go smaller range. Maybe don't go down as far. Okay. Or this way, just bending, we're bringing our ear down to our pocket. Ear down to our pocket. Trying to hear that loose change that I don't have in my pocket. Okay. Again, I'll do about 5 on each side, total of 10. Take a break, and then we'll do another 2 sets of 10 as well. And then this last one. Down here so you can see my feet. So this one is good for balance as well as getting your hips working. So I'm gonna have a seat or a chair beside me so I can hold on to for support when I first start this exercise. But what you're gonna do is you're gonna stand on one foot. So I'm gonna stand on my left. I'm gonna bring my right up, point, out to the side, and behind. So it's kind of like a ballet move. I don't know if you ever forgot what it's called, but point forward, out to the side, and back. Forward, out to the side, and back. Okay. So I'll do 1, 2, 3. We'll try to do 5 each way, and then switch sides. So now I'm going to bounce on my right, forward, out, back, forward, out, back, forward, out, back. All right. I want to thank you guys so much for exercising with me and learning with me. I'm done with my exercises, and I hope you are too. I'm going to pass it on to Brien now.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Sam. I was doing those exercises with you, and they were helping me get warmed up for my part of the presentation. So now I'm ready to go. My name is Dr. Brien Lee. I am a physical therapist here in Atlanta, and I specialize in helping pickleball players recover from injury as well as the performance side of things. And today I'm going to be talking with you about how joyful movement extends so much more or just beyond just the physical. As Dr. Sam mentioned, when we're talking about the pillars of health, we are talking about the physical, but we're also talking about the mental and the social aspect And that is exactly where I think pickleball really comes into the picture because it addresses all three of those things. So I am really excited to talk to you all about pickleball and why it's becoming such a popular game and how it's really transforming so many lives across the country. So let's go ahead and get into it. Let's go to the next slide. So why has pickleball become so popular over the past couple of years? And pickleball has been around since 1965, believe it or not. But I really think that it became popular when it did for a reason. I think most of us became aware of the game within the past couple of years. And I think it was around COVID when this game really exploded. And that's because I think during COVID, a lot of us were feeling very isolated, very separated from each other, and a lot of facilities and maybe other activities that we were doing were not accessible at the time. So we were all kind of looking for a new activity that we could kind of get outside and spend time with each other. And I think that that's where pickleball really kind of picked up its steam. It was an activity that family members could do with each other. And this is where when you go out to the pickleball courts, you see people of all different ages that are interacting and playing. And that was one of the first things that really drew me to the game because we don't see, I think, any type of sport or activity that quite has the demographic that pickleball has drawn in. And I think another reason why pickleball is so fun and has become so popular is because it is a relatively easy sport to pick up. When you're dealing with a paddle and a pickleball, as you can see in the picture here, it sets you up to be able to have success where you're hitting shots and you're enjoying being successful at the game. But I think where the addictive aspect of pickleball comes in is that it is still a very hard game to master. But I think that that's where that gives people, a little bit more of a reason to get back on the court and be active. So it really is just such a fun game. But it brings in just so many different people to play it. And I think that that is why it has really exploded over the past couple of years. So let's get into why is pickleball a great activity for individuals with arthritis? And I think that when you look at pickleball, especially doubles, this is what most people are playing, where there's two people on each side of the court. When you look at the court size of pickleball, it's a much smaller court than, say, in a sport like tennis. So therefore, you don't have to cover as much ground when you're playing. So that as well makes it a little bit of an easier entry point for people to get into it. And it's also a relatively low impact activity. You can kind of control how much intensity you're playing with when you're out on the court. Another reason why it's so great for arthritis is because it is encouraging us to squat. We're lunging when we're out there, as well as we're working on our hip hinge, which is when we're kind of bending forward with our hips. So we're really working our entire body. We're working our core because we have to rotate to hit the shots. And then it also is incorporating a lot of coordination. I think there was actually some research that came out recently that showed that individuals that participate in racket sports like pickleball actually live a longer lifespan. And I think that it's not only just because of the game, but for so many of the different variables and components that we talked about, how it gives us this social connection with people, gets us moving, gets us being physical. Um, so yeah, I just can't speak enough for just how much fun this game is. And then there are, this sport really became a passion of mine when I did, see how this game transformed so many of the participants' lives. There's so many stories of players that started playing this game. They had been sedentary for several years, maybe even longer than that, but they started playing pickleball, fell in love with it because they found a community that they found like they had people that appreciated and valued the same things that they did. And these people, by being consistent with the activity, they've lost weight. It's motivated them to look to other areas of their health and see that, you know what, I've become pickleball was the activity that got me off the couch, but and I'm now seeing that I feel really good when I'm being active. So now they look to other areas of their health that they can now consider to optimize their health in other areas. So whether that's the nutrition or getting into more of a training program that will not only help them to build strength, but it will also allow them to play pickleball for a long time moving forward. So, as somebody who is, an avid player, I really just want to spread the positive impact that pickleball is having on our community. So here we're just going to do a little bit of a crash course. So when it comes to equipment and what you need to start the game, there's really two pieces of equipment that you need. And the first one is going to be a paddle. So this is what a pickleball paddle looks like. This is my Hamilton paddle. This is particularly special to me because previously I was a physical therapist for Hamilton. So when I saw that they did a collaboration with pickleball, this was something that I had to get. So when you're looking at getting a paddle for yourself, I think that one key thing to be mindful of is the weight of a paddle. So for beginners who aren't accustomed to some of the demands of pickleball, I recommend maybe trying to start with a lighter paddle, just so to take a little bit of tension off of some of your arm, your shoulder, your elbow, and your wrist. So paddles come in they range in price, but if you're just looking to get into the game, you really just need something at more of that entry level point. And then if you're more committed, if you want to get something that's more advanced as you start playing more, then you can start to kind of invest in a paddle that has a little bit more characteristics that can give you more power and spin. So definitely need a paddle, but I will also say that pickleball players, we have a thing about paddles. I've got 4 or 5 that I am always willing to lend out. So if you know somebody that plays pickleball, I guarantee you that they have a paddle that they will lend you, and they'll be more than happy to bring you out on the court. And then the other thing that you is a necessity when you're playing pickleball is a ball. So this is what a pickleball looks like. This is an outdoor pickleball. So this is what you'll be using for most of the time. All the courts that are outdoor surfaces. Even most of the courts that are indoors will actually use an outdoor ball. The only time that you would ever use an indoor ball is if you're playing like on a hard court surface. So if you're going out to this door and you're wondering which ball to get, I would say go with the outdoor ball. More than likely, that's where that's what you'll need. Then there's 2 other pieces of equipment that I recommend from like an injury prevention standpoint. And the one of the most important pieces that I recommend is getting a court shoe for pickleball. So a court shoe is designed to provide stability for the side to side movements and some of the kind of change of direction that we're doing. It's a shoe like a running shoe that most people might have and step onto the court with, doesn't provide the stability for some of the side-to-side movements. It might be comfortable because it's cushioned, but a court shoe is designed for the demands of the game. So definitely recommend getting a court shoe to protect your feet, to protect your knees. So that's just really important. Then the other piece of equipment that I highly recommend, maybe not so much when you're first getting started, but if you decide that you're going to play more, the game starts to speed up, the ball starts to get knocked around a little bit more, or if you are just a person who wants to just, be on the safe side, I definitely recommend protective eyewear. I wear this out on the court because although the risk for an eye injury might be small, the severity of that eye injury to me is just not worth it. So highly recommend getting protective eyewear if you're going to be playing pickleball. So that's the equipment that you'll need for stepping out onto the court. So the next thing is, where do you play? So luckily, as pickleball has been growing in popularity, there has been a movement to be building a lot more courts throughout the community. So I found that if you're on social media, if you're on Facebook, you can find little communities in your area by doing a little search, and then so search like the city that you're in and say pickleball after it, and there will oftentimes be some pickleball communities that can give you more direction on where the courts are, and can also just be a great way to set up some potential playing partners. Now, I love to play at just a local park because at a lot of the local parks, they do drop-in play. So this is where a great opportunity where even if you are just one person that just wants to go out there by yourself, I think that this is one dynamic of pickleball that is very unique, is that you can just walk up to the courts and put your paddle in the rack. There's a rack that typically sits on the fence, and that lets the people know that are out there on the court that you have the next game, and those people will welcome you with open arms. And it's just a great way to just interact with some people that you didn't know, and um, then I also just highly recommend, playing at some different facilities around your area if you have the luxury of doing so, because it's just another great way to just meet more pickleball players. And I think you'll also find that there will be some familiar faces as you start going to some of the different locations. So yeah, just do a Google search, check to see if your local park has any pickleball courts. There's definitely some more private facilities that are popping up too. You can also find like a tennis court. If you're just looking to try to get out and see if it's something that you're gonna like, you can get on a tennis court and just hit the ball around. And then, so how do you win? So the rules of, so some of the scoring in pickleball can be confusing. So I actually would recommend just kind of getting out and playing and kind of learning as you go. Pickleball players are very friendly in this sense. They're very understanding. We've all kind of been in a similar situation, but in general, pickleball games are played to 11, and it is win by 2. So one of the rules though when it comes to scoring is that you must be serving in order to score a point. And and I would say that most games to 11 are typically take anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes, which I think is what also makes pickleball a very convenient sport to play. When you're out at the community and people are playing, oftentimes at drop-in play, once one game ends, then those games will often mix who's on the different courts. And that's where I think that the social connection really comes into play, because you're getting the opportunity to play with so many different people. I mean, I can't tell you how many people are in my phone with the last name Pickleball. It's just afterwards, just trying to find more people to play with. And some of those relationships have, extended beyond the court to where it's just people that I hang out with. But I want to highlight, at the end of the game, one of the best parts about this is something called, it's a show of sportsmanship where people come together and they do a paddle tap. And so once the one team gets to 11, everybody rushes up to the net, and as an act of sportsmanship, everybody kind of hops in and just and taps paddles as a way of just saying, hey, that was a lot of fun. When it comes to technique, I'm gonna showcase one move, and that is the serve. So unlike some of the other sports that like pickleball is a combination of tennis, it's a combination of badminton, and it's a combination of ping pong. One of the unique features of pickleball is that when you're serving, you have to serve underhand, which I think this is actually why it's a very healthy sport for anybody who might be dealing with some shoulder or arm pain. Doing motions that are underhand are naturally going to just be more friendly, more shoulder friendly movements. So I'm going to showcase the serve movement. And in pickleball, when you're hitting a serve, the ball has to be hit at a point below the belly button. Now, sometimes that can get a little bit confusing when you're playing because it can be very close. But when you drop the ball and you're going to try and hit it at a point below your belly button, the other part is that the wrist has to be below or the paddle head has to be below your hand. So it can't be hit here when I'm serving it. It has to be hit right at this point here or lower. So that's kind of a service motion. And from the side, you want to make sure that you're hitting the ball from a contact point in front, not too far from behind you here. So that is how I would coach somebody to do a serve. You can also bounce the ball and then hit it. That's another effective way of getting the service motion going. And then I think that there's two other like rules that are important, even if you're just going to go out to the court, to be aware of. So the serve starts the point. And then on the other end, we call the person who's hitting that shot, we call them the returner. When that person hits the ball back over to the server side, that ball has to bounce. And that is one key difference between pickleball and tennis, is that the server does not necessarily have the advantage. So the fact that the serve, you hit it, the returner hits the ball back, that ball has to bounce, and then it becomes pretty much open play. And if you've heard anything about pickleball over the past couple of months, you may have heard people talk about the kitchen. And I think, yeah, we can go into the next slide. So here's just another great outline of the pickleball court. So we can see here we've got the service box. So this is where when you're standing on one side, you're going to serve diagonally across the court into the opposite service box. Then when the returner hits it, they hit it back over the net, and it can land anywhere on that side, but the serving side has to let that ball bounce. The rules as it relates to the kitchen. When you're standing in this kitchen area, the only thing that you're not allowed to do here is you're not allowed to hit the ball out of the air. So my opponent hits it over the net and I'm standing in the kitchen and I hit that ball out of the air, I would lose that point. However, if I'm standing in the kitchen and the ball bounces, I can then hit it even if I'm standing in the kitchen. So most players will kind of stand at this middle line on the court to where they can take the ball out of the air or let it bounce. But that's really the kind of foundation of pickleball. So I really hope that that getting a little bit of an overview of this game and hearing about how it can just benefit your health. I really hope that this inspires you all to get out there, get out in your community and give this sport a try, because I guarantee you will have a good time doing it.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Brien. I tell you, I am excited to try pickleball. I am. I actually have a friend who's also my photographer who has taken a huge interest in pickleball. And now I understand why. So it's something that I am definitely willing to try, as that has been one of my goals this year, is to try some different things, especially since I'm in my off season. I'm not competing in any competitions this year. I said I wanted to try some other types of exercises that I haven't tried before, including Pilates. That's another one. But yeah, definitely pickleball is certainly on the list. So I would like to just kind of add a little bit of, what joyful movement looks like. So I know you've heard several things today that you can certainly take into consideration, and I hope that you would try. However, I will say that there is no one size fit all when it comes to exercise and movement. It looks different for everyone because we're different. Our conditions are different. And so you have to celebrate your body in a way that works for you. So that's what I would say should be your biggest takeaway, is to embrace and celebrate what your body can do, whatever that looks like. Okay. And so it certainly is a celebration, just to be able to have the movement and the activity and functionality of your limbs. May not be what it used to be, but you can start right where you are with joyful movement. So I do hope that you were inspired and that you can certainly take something and several things away from this presentation, because there is something for everyone. Okay, so let's go ahead and summarize everything. First of all, I just want to thank you all so much for joining us tonight. You have been an amazing audience, and we're about to head into our Q&A session. But before we do that, I just want to go over everything that we talked about. So, being your best self, becoming a better version of yourself. What does that look like? So, addition of mindful movement each day. This is something that you have to be intentional about. Okay. So, keep that word in your brain, intentionality. You have to decide that you are going to move, because one thing that I say all the time, I tell my clients, movement is medicine. Motion is lotion. Okay. Remember those two quotes. Movement is medicine and motion is lotion. Your bodies were meant to move. Will it look different? Yes, but it's still possible. So be intentional with getting some activity in every day if you can, every day. Finding exercises that you're passionate about. Again, finding something that you enjoy. I tell my clients and my followers all the time, yes, you may see me lifting weights and doing all this stuff in the gym, but I didn't wake up like this. That's what Beyonce say. I woke up like this. I didn't wake up like this. Okay. I started in jazzercise. I started in Zumba. I started with walking. I started with low impact things. And I mean, this has been years in the making, years. But again, you have to decide, you have to be intentional, believe that you can do it, and find something that you enjoy. Creating a routine that is modified to fit your needs. As I said earlier, and as Dr. Sam said, you have to, of course, get some direction from a professional, okay, a physical therapist, a personal trainer, a coach, someone who understands what you're going through to be able to create a routine that is suitable for your needs. Because as I said, there is no one size fit all. It has to work for you. All right. And next, exercising can create a community. Uh, when I say that is one thing that has gotten me through some tough days is having a community. And I built one of my own. Within RA Warrior Fitness, we have a community where my members feel safe. They feel like it is a safe space where they can, you know, talk about their challenges, but also talk about their wins, but also be encouraged and uplifted. And that's what we do. That's what we do. And I constantly pour into them, to become a better version of themselves and to just, love themselves where they are and just, embrace the power of community. It really does help to have support from people. And there are so many different groups out there that you can get plugged into. And Flame Sisters Thriving is one that I'm a part of. And also Lily Stairs, she started the Chronic Boss Collective for professional business women who also have chronic conditions. Same with Flame Sisters Thriving, helping women to know that they can thrive and to bloom where they're planted, right? Okay, stop hiding and start thriving. Find you a community. And last but not least, long-term of benefits. What you're doing now is setting you up for years from now. And this is another thing that I like to say is imagine who you want to be in the future, your future self. Imagine things that you see yourself doing. What will you be doing a few years from now? How will you look? How will you feel? What types of things are you eating? What are you drinking? Like what are your habits? What do they look like? You've got to start doing those things now in order to become that version of yourself. You've got to do those habits now, slowly but surely, so that you can start becoming your future self right now. So it goes back to number one, to mindful movement each day and just being intentional so you can start becoming a better version of yourself right now. You have everything you need. You lack nothing. You might just need a community, and you might need a coach, physical therapist, someone to help you along the way. So don't be afraid to ask for help. Okay, so together all things are possible, and all of these things will help you become a better version of yourself. So now we are going to go into our Q&A. So I'm going to bring back all of our speakers, Dr. Brien, Dr. Sam, and so we are going to answer some questions here. So I believe I'm going to start in the Q&A. Okay, hold on just a second. Okay, here we go. Dr. Brien, this is for you. Is pickleball hard on your knees? My RA is mostly in my knees. This is what one of our participants is saying.
Well, pickleball definitely can be, we definitely use our lower extremities, like our hips, our knees, and our ankles. Because the ball is a wiffle ball, it doesn't bounce super high. So that does kind of require us to be able to kind of get into some lower positions. But I think that that's where it's a great way to actually get out and work some of those muscle groups that can kind of support that area. And then a key thing I think for pickleball or for any player, but especially individuals that have arthritis, would be doing a dynamic warm up before you get started. When we're warming up, we're not just warming up the muscles. There's actually fluid inside the joints that we want to get moving, because as that fluid warms up, it helps with our joints be able to, like with shock absorption. So making sure that you take a couple of minutes before you get on the court to warm up will help the joints, and it will also activate the muscles to help support that area. And then if you're playing doubles too, I think that there's a lot less movement involved than you know, something like singles. So if you're playing doubles, I think that it can be a very knee-friendly form of exercise.
Love that. Thank you, Dr. Brien. So I've got one for you, Dr. Sam. Are there any exercises for chronic hand joint pain?
Yeah, usually I will say a good basis to start with any joint that's giving you issues. Um, Number one, find someone that can help you through that process or guide you through that process. So either a trainer, physical therapist, also talk to your healthcare provider, but also starting from range of motion. So just going through the available range of motion that you have, if it's your right hand, for example, and you have pain in your whatever, uh, go through the range of motion that you can tolerate that isn't painful, right? A little discomfort is normal when you're starting to get moving, but you want to avoid it being painful, right? So usually I'll tell people just start with, if we're talking about our hands, let's start with opening, closing, right? Opening, closing. Is that painful or is it uncomfortable? We'll stick around that level of intensity. Closing your fist, opening. You can either go one finger at a time, go to the wrist as well, things like that. Outside of range of motion, I like to start with what we call isometrics. So a good one that I like to, I don't have a towel or anything like that, but you can imagine this is a towel. Um, Getting some squeezing. So isometric is a contraction of muscles where there's not a lot of movement. So just squeezing and seeing how that feels. Maybe start at maybe 10%, go up to 50%. Just gentle to what you can tolerate. That's a good start to get these muscles inside your hand going so they can support the joints and maybe dissipate or share some of the workload that's going through those cranky joints that we have. And then from there, definitely talking with your provider or your physical therapist or your trainer. But there's other things you can do with bands or even weights. So imagine this is a dumbbell, but there's things like we said, we just did the range of motion. Now we can add weight to it. Okay. We're working on strengthening about the joint, around the joint. So going through the available range of motion that you have, just with a water bottle, something light. And then as you get better at that, you can increase or progress the exercise.
Yes, yes, I agree, Dr. Sam, because that's where my arthritis is mostly in my hands and wrists. And because I went so long before I was diagnosed, I have severe joint damage in my wrist. So literally, I have no range of motion. You can kind of see like
So
how
yeah,
small, like my wrists are just getting smaller as I get older too. But I have noticed that like when I sleep at night, sometimes I experience numbness, like when I wake up and I have to lay there in the bed before I get up and do anything and do those exercises that you just showed, you know, and just trying to start with the range of motions that I have to kind of wake them up and get them unstiff and working so that I can kind of start my day. So yeah, so those were really great tips. And I like the isometric exercise that you said too, because I was looking up here because I know I have an arthritis foundation
oh, the
ball.
squeeze ball, yeah.
Yeah, squeeze ball. So those help, but it's not in reach. So I was like, I'm not going to try to reach up there. But okay, awesome. Thanks for answering that. So,
Well,
Dr.
one more
Brian,
thing. I'll also
yes.
say that additionally, finding things that can help your joints feel good. So I'm not sure if you have any techniques or remedies,
Mhm.
but a lot of people will find either heat or cold
Yes,
is helpful. E-stim, use of electrical stimulation, things like that. I always
absolutely.
recommend post care or even pre. And
Mhm.
even some of my patients, I'll have them put on those electric stimulation pads or have some
Mhm.
heat on while they're doing the exercise to dissipate some of the pain so that we get a
Mhm.
window of time where it's not as painful and we can get some loading through those muscles.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Because compression gloves are pretty good. Like, I love to use the compression gloves. And I also have wrist straps, if you have joint damage in your wrist.
Mhm.
Like, I never work out or lift anything without having my wrist supported because it's such a weak joint. So, I always have some support. And like you said, the warm and cold therapy helps, just to run warm water over your hands, first thing in the morning. Because of course we're stiff after, laying in bed, sleep all night.
Right.
So it's going to take a little bit to kind of get you warmed up. So, yeah, yeah, all great tips. All right, Dr. Brien, back to you. So, pickleball requires twisting at knee, which is what I cannot do safely with knee osteoarthritis. Why do so many people get injuries from pickleball?
Yeah, so if you feel unsafe going out onto the court, this is where. But if pickleball is something that you're interested in, this is where I would definitely recommend seeking out um, a physical therapist or a trainer who can kind of get you on a program to build that confidence. By doing some exercises to strengthen up the knees to provide a little bit more stability. Yeah, because pickleball, it does require some change of directions. But so yeah, if you feel like it would be unsafe for you to get on the court, absolutely go seek out some professional guidance for that if this is a sport that you want to do. Other part of that, why do people get hurt playing pickleball? Well, I think that there's a couple things that we kind of briefly mentioned was I think a lot of players don't warm up before they play. And
Mhm.
um, I'd be surprised I go to a lot of tournaments, I go to a lot of drop-in play, and it doesn't matter what the circumstances are, there's still not a lot of players warming up. So I think that that would be the first step is get your body prepped for before you step onto the court. The other part is shoe wear. I think that we are seeing a lot of some ankle sprain type of situation. But I think a lot of that comes from, somebody who might be wearing like a running shoe and they're on the court and the sport's gotten the best of them. They turn the competitiveness on and they're doing their best to try and track down that shot. So, when you first get on the court, just try to have fun, get a feel, and let your body kind of adjust to the demands of the game. I think that those two things are really big. And then being mindful of playing volume. A lot of pickleball injuries are overuse injuries. People fall in love with the game and they can't stop playing it. So give if you're gonna play, I'd say even when you start to love it, because I know that you will, um, be mindful of the amount that you're playing. So give yourself enough recovery time between sessions, because we know that I think there's been studies that have shown that if you play sports like after a 2 hour mark, that injuries typically increase after that period. So just being mindful of the amount of time that you're on the court. I hope that answers your question. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great, Dr. Bryan. And just to echo the warming up. Oh, y'all, you can't just jump into activity. You have to warm up. Like, think about a car in the wintertime. You don't just go and crank it up and drive off, right? You got to let that baby warm up about 5 or 10 minutes. Same with your body. Give yourself a good 5 to 10 minute warm up, dynamic warm up, so that you're preparing your body for that activity. Super important. All right, Dr. Sam, a PT told me it was okay if it hurt during exercise as long as it didn't hurt after. But my brain tells me to stop running or doing whatever is making me hurt. Should I push through the pain?
So I agree and disagree. I think there's a difference between pain and discomfort. I don't ever want pain. Usually, if I'm introducing a new exercise to a patient, we'll establish beforehand what we consider pain and what we consider discomfort or normal discomfort that is associated with exercise. I will say with some exercise, depending on what exercise you're doing, there is a expected level of pain that's going to come with that, but that will be communicated and discussed with your provider or your trainer. And usually there's a window, right? We don't want to go past, let's say on a scale of 0 to 10. 0 to 3 is what I call green. From 4 to 7 is what I call starts to get yellow. And then above that is red. So we want to avoid definitely red. Yellow can fluctuate. It just depends on the person and then the activity and what the injury or what we're working on is. And usually to gauge where you're at, if you're feeling nauseous because of pain, or you feel like you're going to pass out, sweating, or you can't speak or communicate, usually that's getting up into the higher end of that yellow to red, and we want to avoid that. So regarding running, if that is specifically an exercise that you want to do, I would say I always recommend, like, if that's something you're very passionate about, start off in the water. So I like to tell people get into a pool if it's the summertime, or if you have access to a heated pool. Running in water unweights those lower extremity joints, and you still get a cardiac benefit as well as resistive benefit to the muscles in the legs as well. And then usually you can transition to maybe walking on a treadmill after that, increasing the elevation or the slope of the treadmill, and just playing around with different ways to expose your knees, lower extremities to that type of workload, and then building from there. But to sum it up, I would say definitely pay attention to those pain levels for sure.
Love it. Love it. All right. So this next question is for me. So, how can I lose weight if my mobility is limited? So, I would say this would depend on how limited your mobility is. But the first thing, as a trainer, as a coach, as someone who was overweight and lost the weight, I would ask, about your nutrition. So I know this is all about exercise, but honestly, what you put in your body, you're either feeding a disease or you're fighting it. And making sure that you're eating anti-inflammatory foods, number one, and making sure that you're eating enough, drinking, enough water, getting enough fluids and everything. Like, that's number one. Like, your nutrition has to be on point. But depending on how limited your mobility is, I would definitely say any type of water aerobics would be good, because that kind of takes some of the stress off of your joints because of the buoyancy. So, any type of water aerobics is certainly helpful. I've had several clients that have done that, and it has worked wonders for them. And then, as you grow stronger, then maybe consider something like a stationary bike or something. A bike that just has a regular seat and you're just pedaling. Like, they make so many things these days that you could do at home, like one of those pedal things that you could put in front of your chair or your couch at home. So any type of movement is certainly going to help, especially stretching as well. But I would first ask, how's your nutrition, how's your water intake, and then from there we would determine the type of exercise that your body can handle. So, all right. So we've got another question here. Water exercises for core strengthening. My balance issue what would activity and what exactly should I do on a flotation yoga mat? I'm going to read that again. So, water exercises for core strengthening. So my balance is the issue. With activity, I think she's saying, what activity should I do on a flotation or yoga mat? Do either of you have an opinion on that in regards to core strengthening?
And she has balance issues, or he or she has balance.
Balance issues.
Yeah, I would definitely consult a provider for sure to get a baseline of what your balance is looking like. You don't want to try to train balance, and that's a big issue by yourself. Usually you want to do it within the confines of a safe space where someone can have eyes on you and be able to tweak something if they see, okay, we're not able to do that exercise, as opposed to pushing through. So I would definitely, if you're trying to work on balance, definitely get a baseline from a professional, and then maybe transition to a home exercise program that can work on that balance for sure.
Mhm. Love that. Love that. Well, all right. Well, I believe we have come to the end of our Q&A. So this is a promotional slide here where you can actually get the information from our speakers. So I don't know, Dr. Brien, if you wanted to talk about STEAM, if you all wanted to talk about your slides here.
Yeah, so you can find more information about my practice at STEAM Physical Therapy. If you're interested in getting more information about staying healthy on the pickleball court, I have a podcast that I host, The Healthy Pickleballer, available to be listened on Apple and Spotify. And then if you are on social media, you can find me at The Healthy Pickleballer. And then if you're interested in getting a dynamic warm-up, you can scan that QR code, and the dynamic warm-up video will be sent directly to you.
And myself, the PT plug, that is me. You can find out a little bit more information about myself at theptplug.net. There you'll find upcoming blog posts that I have coming. If you want to consult or kind of just reach out, you can also reach out to me via that website. Social media is also linked there as well. And if you scan the QR code, you'll have a link to the exercises, that exercise program that I did on the webinar this evening. And then I just want to shout out my organization, the Emerging 100 of Atlanta. If you are interested in learning a little bit about what we're doing here for the youth in the Atlanta area, I definitely encourage you to check them out. We've got a lot of things coming up for the rest of the year. I would love for you all to participate.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Brien. Thank you, Dr. Sam. And I'd just like to say too, so you can find me, my website is rawarriorfitness.com. And you can find me on Instagram, Facebook. Instagram is Ashnick, ASHNIC_RA Warrior Fitness. And so, if you have any questions for me or have a desire to maybe want to work together, please feel free to reach out. I give a free health assessment, as well as discovery calls. So would love to learn more about you to see, how we can possibly work together. And so I'm going to pass it over to Asia now to close us out with resources. And thank you all so much for joining us.
Absolutely. Hi, I know it says Rachel Meadows on the screen, but my name is Asia Lee. I'm the Director of Patient Education here at the Arthritis Foundation. So I want to thank Ashley, Brien, and Sam for coming on and being our hosts and speakers for this wonderful webinar. I wanted to hop on last second and kind of tell you some of the upcoming events that we have, as well as some of our other resources. So next webinar is going to be Shades of Arthritis, Patient and Provider Perspectives. That's going to be April 25th. That's going to be Thursday, April 25th, exact. 6 to 7, exact same time as this one. You can find all of our upcoming webinars at arthritis.org/event/webinars. We also have a wonderful Connect group on the way, the RA Connect group. That's going to be Saturday, April 6th, 6 to 7. If you go to connectgroups.arthritis.org, you will see all of our wonderful list of Connect groups. It's where you can come talk to people that are in similar situations, build that community that we talked about on this webinar. We also have a wonderful podcast that ranges through a varied amount of different diseases, treatments, just experiences from people that are RA warriors. And always remember that we have that helpline there for you should you need anything at all from the foundation. If we can't help you, we definitely will find someone or some resource that can. But thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you next month at Shades of Arthritis.